Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. That brings us back to another episode on DxTalks. And this one, I think, is very exciting because we will be discovering some new blockchain technologies that has been there for a while, but now they have some new also innovation that will possibly try to change the whole game of blockchain. And today we are talking about BSV. Bitcoin Satoshi's vision, which is a cryptocurrency and a blockchain that originated from a hard fork of Bitcoin in 2018. So we are talking about the change in the fundamentals, the change in the network size or the block size. We're going to have our guest directly. We're going to take him. We have Jake Jones, head of network and infrastructure from BSV or Blockchain Association, and Rami Sabeh, the co-founder of Silverline and the BSV MENA ambassador. Welcome to the DxTalks. Welcome to this platform.
Thanks, Rudy.
Rami, we cannot hear you, but meanwhile, Jake, please introduce yourself, and then please, after that, Rami, introduce yourself.
For sure, yeah. So my name is Jake Jones. I work with the BSV Blockchain Association. I'm the head of network infrastructure there, and I help out with a number of different projects, the biggest one being the Teranode project, which I've been working on since last year. And I help out with various other technical projects and doing outreach like this and just trying to teach people about blockchain and what the value add of blockchain is. And I hope we can get into that today.
Definitely will try. Rami?
Yes, this is Rami Al Sabeh. I'm also an ambassador for the MENA region as discussed with the BSV. Our journey into blockchain has been since a long time, since 2008. We started understanding how technologies are growing into different forks and different development. And since that time, we noticed that also network and from the infrastructure layer, the pipelines of the blockchain should be scalable at the same time, maintain the security of the proof of work. And that's what I believe a lot of the BSV ecosystem believes. And Jake knows more about the infrastructure layer. I think he can explain it to us more about what is the scalability and are we talking about here.
Definitely. Jake, I'd like to take it from you first, if you don't mind introducing what is BSV.
Yeah, for sure. So BSV stands for Bitcoin Satoshi's vision, as you previously mentioned. And the whole intent of BSV is to try to get back to the original Bitcoin protocol. So we feel that BTC has made so many changes, some of the biggest being segregated witness, replaced by fee. There's a number of BIPs that essentially broke the protocol and disturbed the incentive scheme, the very delicate incentive scheme that was put in place with the original protocol. So that's what we're doing with BSV. We're bringing things back to the original protocol. We're restoring all the missing opcodes and getting it working the way it's meant to be working again. And a big part of that is scalability and what we're doing with Teranode as well. So we did hit a huge milestone recently with 1 million transactions per second. And to put that into perspective, Visa does about 2,500, so it's quite a big difference. And the reason why it's so important is because it's trying to address the true value add of what BSV is, of what really blockchain is. So if you split out the blockchain part of it, blockchain is really just a time stamping mechanism. But what allows or what brings the value add in is the ability to send a transaction anywhere in the world basically instantly for fractions of a cent or less than a cent. No other technology is capable of doing that. But in order to do that, you have to solve a couple of problems. One of the biggest being double spending. And then the other problem being, if you're going to be sending these small transactions, you're going to have to deal with a lot of transactions. So you need to be able to handle that and scale that out. And so what we did with Teranode is we basically looked at what the different aspects of a node are. A Bitcoin node, in the way we think of a Bitcoin node, is it's only an entity, a network entity that's performing mining. So basically it's described in section 5 of the Bitcoin white paper. You have transaction validation, you have transaction propagation, you need to send the transactions to all of the other nodes that prevents double spending, and then building blocks and obviously hashing to try and find the proof of work. So we took these different components, and we have the advantage of working with Dr. Craig Wright himself, who did a lot of the research and legwork for us. We were able to take a lot of his ideas and just really implement them. And we took all of these different aspects of the node system and we split them out into separate microservices or services, and that allowed us to horizontally scale those different services. And so there's still a few kinks that we're working out, but we're really happy with the progress that we've made. And that's where we're headed now. Is we're looking at how we can take it to the next level, get it onto mainnet, and we're going to be launching a test at the end of the year. That's going to be pretty exciting. So definitely.
That's what I wanted to ask you. When is the release date of the Teranode?
Yeah, so we're going to be launching a large-scale test that definitively proves the 1 million transactions per second, and that will be running for a number of months. And then once that's started running, we'll be putting the finishing touches on it and looking to get it onto mainnet at the end of 2024.
Very good, very good. Now, I receive a lot of questions from different sides of the table here. Was it from governments? Was it from organizations? Was it from startups? It is kind of expensive to be able to fully venture on the blockchain today. And if I want to scale to thousands of documents and so on, currently it's a hassle, and that's where scalability comes in. Now with BSV, there's a lot of this has been taken care of and enhanced by design, and then later on with Teranode that will bring those new features or new competition to the game of blockchain as a whole. You're changing the whole scene of blockchain. It's not about anymore BSV. It's a wider thing. What's your take on this, and why should organizations from any point of the spectrum come or involve themselves and start researching about BSV and onboarding on BSV?
Well, it provides something that hasn't existed up until now, and that's mainly the fact that you can send transactions so cheaply. You can send them anywhere almost instantly, or not almost instantly. You can send them instantly when you're sending them P2P or person to person or machine to machine, IoT, for example. But the other aspect of it is data provenance. So we live in a world today where there's a lot of mistrust, and a lot of people don't necessarily believe the information that they're getting, or they'll buy into the sources that they believe in, and you have other people believing their sources. So it's hard to find exactly.
The trust now in the whole technology part. Look how much cybersecurity is costing just because of trust. You cannot trust the system that you're working with because I cannot trust it. They own the data. I have the information. We moved from on-prem to cloud. Who has the access to that data and what does it work? And then you're putting a pipeline of a trust on a network that anything that needs to get on that network can at least have that timestamping. It can be auditable and it can be followed up, and it can do at the same time the accounting, whatever type of an accounting or settlement directly or instantly for an organization or for any type of an entity. And we're talking about various different types of data. We're not talking about the simple, any type of a data that you want, you can get the fingerprint hashed or transact on top of that. And that's where you're gonna be controlling the Internet of Things, because you have a huge amount of a network, and then you're utilizing these transactions to communicate on an open network securely. And that's why.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So going back to BSV and governments, Rami mentioned some. In UAE, for example, there's a lot of initiatives, on pushing blockchain agenda, even internally within the governments, ministries, and offices. How can they approach this from a public blockchain, and knowing that many of the governments need some privacy in terms of privacy? And how can how can they be enabled, not just as a government, but anybody be enabled with this, especially with Teranode?
Yeah, for sure. That's a question that we get quite often, and it's actually more private than the systems that we use today. So the fact that you're firewalling identity from the transactions that you're making, like when you go and use your credit card today, every time you tap your credit card, you're giving the credit card company, you're giving the merchant all of your personal information. So your information is out there in so many different ways. There's the Equifax hack is another example. And so what the blockchain does is it pulls that information apart, and it atomizes it. It makes it an atomic set. So you can have this immutable chain of data that you can pull pieces of, and you only use those relevant pieces when you need them. So it just provides a much more granular and really safe and private way to interact and do things. So from a government perspective, it's actually something that you want to be looking into, because it's improving your privacy and security rather than something that's going to be risking it more.
Yeah, very interesting.
the
Rami,
added,
if you want to localize it to the region, what's happening, knowing what's happening in this, and then you've met with a lot of authorities and interesting people through DxTalks. What's your take on this from our region?
look, we went around different subjects and we came back to the trust. Okay. And the interesting part about this infrastructure, it is giving trust. We're not saying that the information on it is trustable, but it's giving a network that you can trust and then you can build on top of it. So this is moving from the versions of the internet, working with the speed of the connections that we went with Web 1, Web 2, Web 3, and now companies, organizations will be dealing with each other on a network that they can trust, and they do not need to use the old system legacies that they cannot trust. So it will embed itself in the actual network layer of the internet, where it becomes that channel to settle any kind of communication between different organizations. So this is where governments can put data of people, while they can give them the access of that data. They can go into granular parts where voting systems can be built in a way that everything is trusted 100 by system, automatically trusted through that system when you communicate with it. And that's a whole different era of chances of growing and making it more frictionless, as we say, to communicate and to share data. Imagine that you would maybe give myself, I would post a single photo, and many organizations would get the keys to share that photo, and instead of using that. So it will create that infrastructure that is really actually suitable for the next generation, because we have a whole resource power that's going to be starting to be controlled that way. And I think that's what governments, they need to understand, that this is just working on a system that really gives you that trust. And I think people should really start searching into what is blockchain's pillars are, I guess.
Yeah, thank you, Rami. Jake, back a bit on the scalability. I don't know if you can dive a little bit technical on how it aims to really handle this large amount of volume of transactions compared to other blockchains, such as Bitcoin, Ethereum, or even its predecessor, BCH. What are you changing the blockchain size? Are you, I know sometimes you don't want to give so much info, but at least maybe from general perspective, so that people know a little bit to start looking or digging, especially for those startups or layers solutions that wants to dig in this.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is really exciting because it's a totally new way of doing things, but it's also something that plugs really nicely into existing infrastructure. So it's not a huge jump to start integrating into your current systems. But essentially what we've done is we've taken advantage of specialization. So rather than having a monolithic system that has to do everything, all of the different aspects of a node, we've split those different pieces out, those different services out, and that's allowed us to use them in areas that make the most sense. So let's say you're a node and you want to propagate transactions really quickly around the world, or you want to send some kind of information really quickly, or you want to be able to validate transactions really quickly, and maybe you have a partnership with another node. You can actually situate the validation part of the Teranode system on a major network infrastructure junction point, and you could have a deal, or maybe even a conglomerate of companies that work together to operate a node. So that's really what we've done, is we've taken advantage of our ability to split these systems out and specialize and take advantage of the different resources that they have available to them. And that's what allows you to scale. It's basically just dividing work up, right? Instead of one person having to do everything, if you have a bunch of people working on it, working at different aspects of it, it allows you to do a lot more.
Yeah, it's interesting how this technology is being built, and then that's what drives me to how is really BSV Association fostering this adoption within various industries, and is there any special use cases you can help us understand or guide us on so that they can try to make it as clear as possible?
For sure, yeah. Well, I think one that's kind of front of everybody's mind these days is a CBDC. So that might be a quick example to start with, but then we can jump into something else afterwards. But essentially, with the way that we're doing things now with Teranode, you don't have to worry about running a node. And that was always in the white paper, Section 8, with simplified payment verification. But what we've done is we've allowed these secondary layers to start to take shape. And it's not the same as like the Lightning Network, where you have a completely separate system. What we're allowing for are what are called overlays. And so essentially what an overlay is it's kind of like a sub network that uses the same underlying network that everything else runs on. So that's, for example, the UTXOs. An overlay network is still going to be using UTXOs, but you can start to build templates with your transactions and use those UTXOs in a unique way. And so you can have a customer base or integrate that into your application, and then your customers are interacting with you directly, which also aids scalability because you're not having to interact directly with the blockchain. All of that data and privacy, even things like SLAs, that gives you an advantage there. You can deal with that in your own subnet versus having to rely on a large blockchain, which as you scale, it definitely becomes untenable. Even 1 million transactions per second is getting up there.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Rami, now onboarding Middle East companies or Middle East and North African companies, how do you think they can start? How is their channel to start? How can they connect to BSV?
Well, first thing, that's what we are coming here for. One is the main pillar that we have in us and our partners and our connections with the whole BSV ecosystem that started is we are here to teach people. We are here, so the educational level is the main one. What you're doing in this session is one of them, and I think that people, once they start digging deeper, and that we can give them the access to that is actually already online if they go, and there is an academies to understand really blockchain, where it came from, and then take it forward from there and start seeing where they can build their own into their own benefits or business models, because it's not going to come here and it's going to change the law of payments. It's just going to enhance any type of a system that is working with it and creating that infrastructure that is trusted. You can utilize it, and at the same time you can secure it in any infrastructure that you need. And governments, they have informations. We're talking about HR data, we're talking about hospital data, we're talking about every type of data can go into that granular system in order to help out scale and make it more efficient.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about AI and blockchain, it has a big role, because you need actually something to maybe tokenize and make everything that is actually AI based it should be tokenized in a way, and something that is real should be. So there's a lot of use cases. So that it's going to be the governance model of data transactions, and that's, I think, a lot of people are already joining into this ecosystem. And the more businesses that they want to learn more, I think they can reach out to any of us, and we can help out, in the learning curve, and actually showing them the projects that already exist. So that's another part of it.
Yeah, I'll definitely link in the description below and in our newsletter, of course, and other text-related info, the ways you can contact. I've seen good use cases in GxTalks. We interviewed different ones. You can watch also the video. I'll link them below because they are interesting. Was it from supply chain to gaming to certification of products to different solutions? That's the most important part, is the solution part to problems, so that today it can really happen in a fast way, financially variable, and most importantly easy, and then it can definitely bring innovation and adoption in the space of blockchain. So I'll leave it last 2 words to you guys. What else would you like to recommend so that our viewers can definitely grasp and then take the benefit of this? I'll leave the floor to you both, each from his side.
Rami, do you want to start?
Yeah, Jones, Jake, please go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I would just really encourage people to learn as much as they can about it, because I do strongly believe it's going to be a pervasive technology. We're going to see it in absolutely everything. And as Rami was just pointing out, AI is taking off right now too, but blockchain is going to be an integral part of AI, because you need to be able to track where your training data is coming from. So it's a really mundane example, but that's the kind of things, the everyday small things, that blockchain is going to become absolutely necessary for. So definitely encourage people to start learning more about it, start learning how you can use it, the utility of it, and microtransactions, micropayments, and try to think about ways on how, like Rudy was just saying, how you can start businesses or apply these new business models, because you don't have to rely on ad revenue with the BSV blockchain. You can charge people directly, micropayments.
Yeah. Rami?
So I think that the last part that Jake was talking about, so microtransactions create value in a small way that can be accounted for. So even when we're talking about in different Middle Eastern and African countries, a single dollar to utilize it, it can give them a service, or it can pay them for services. And then there's a system that can really be trusted to utilize that, even if they're trying to do it from a governmental section, going into a banking sector that is done in a trusted way that cannot be fooled. So, and also from enterprises that really wants to create an incentive value for people, and it's a network that they can trust. And I think everybody, as soon as they get into it, they will reach to a point that they just want to add more value to the ecosystem of how the technology needs to continue in the next era, I guess.
Yeah, very interesting. Thank you, guys. It was amazing and a pleasure to speak to both of you, each from his side. I think we're conquering the world where we are in different geographical regions, and that's the beauty of today. Where you can operate and then definitely innovate anywhere. Let's please watch the replay. Don't forget to subscribe. Check below for all of the links or information related to BSV and how you can connect to them, and then start the journey in the space of blockchain. So I'd really like to thank you both for your time and a really interesting conversation of how really still believe in what I've seen and heard, that the next era of possibly blockchain, I don't know where we are today, 2.0, 3.0, this could add another evolution of blockchain in the space. Good luck on the testing and then later on going live. Meanwhile, I know you have a lot of headache on your side of infrastructure, because in the end of the day, this is where everything gonna be thrown on you. All of the best on this. Same, Rami. Hope we can definitely get more use cases in our region, so that we can, try to explode the innovation pipe into the world of Web3 and blockchain. With that, I'd like to thank you all and then see you soon.
Thanks, Rudy. Thanks, Rami.
Thank you, Rudy.